Okay, I'm going to go ahead and read through the poem again. The Tuft of Flowers. I went to turn the grass once after one who mowed it in the dew before the sun. The dew was gone that made his blade so keen before I came to view the leveled scene. I looked for him behind an aisle of trees. I listened for his whetstone on the breeze. But he had gone his way, the grass all mowed, and I must be as he had been, alone. As all must be, I said within my heart, whether they work together or apart. But as I said it, swift there passed me by, on noiseless wing, a bewildered butterfly, seeking with memories grown dim overnight, some resting flower of yesterday's delight. And once I marked his flight go round and round, as where some flower lay withering on the ground. And then he flew as far as eye could see, and then on tremulous wing came back to me. I thought of questions that have no reply, and would have turned to toss the grass to dry. But he turned first, and led my eye to look at a tall tuft of flowers beside a brook. Okay, so that's where we're going to, we'll stop right there. And we're going to continue with our discussion. Okay, so one of the things that I said last class was that the poem is not about fields and hay and, mowing and butterflies and all that stuff. All that stuff represents metaphors. And it's not a nature poem. Like people would say, well, Frost is a nature poet. No. The poem is about something to do with the human condition. Okay, it's not about nature. It's about human beings and what it means to be a person living, living life. And like the main theme of the poem is what fellowship is all about. And what it's like to have true fellowship in the face of crisis and hardship and turmoil. That's what the poem is about. So we got to make sure we keep that in mind, that, the poem everything's a metaphor. Everything's a metaphor. The grass, the butterfly, they all represent something about being a human person, the psychology of humanity. See, it's about the human condition. About the human condition. It's not about butterflies and grass. Now, here's another way of looking at this. In poetry, you can kind of have two different kinds of poetry. You can have what's called a descriptive poem, and you can have poems that are called narrative poems. Okay? The descriptive and the narrative. Descriptive, okay, and narrative. Now, a descriptive poem is a poem that is written just so you can get imagery. That's it. It's just painting a picture. There's no deeper meaning. The roses are red. They smell like sweet love or something. It's just descriptive. It's not. There's no deeper meaning. So descriptive poems which are fine. It's just a different kind of poem. Descriptive poems are just visual imagery. Visual imagery. That's what descriptive poems are all about. It's just painting a picture of something. It's describing something, right? But a narrative poem is about a story. It tells a story. Like the poem, that's the poem that we're dealing with, see? The poem we're dealing with, The Tuft of Flowers, is narrative. It's telling a story. And the whole point of the story in almost, in many cases is there's some kind of conflict, and then there's going to be some kind of resolution. See, it's about, it's about life. There's a conflict and there's a resolution. Conflict resolution. All right. Okay, so in this narrative of this story, of this poem, the main theme is, like, as we said, is about fellowship. Okay, that's the conflict and revolution. Fellowship. Companionship, friendship, what it means to be connected to another person, what it means, what does it mean to be, for people to have some kind of real unity, see? That's what the poem's really about. That's what the narrative is about. Now, so what we're going to do now is we're going to look at the progression of what happens in this poem as far as this main theme of fellowship. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the progression of what takes place in the poem so far. All right, so the first thing that happens in the poem is, as we said, there's an expectation on the part of the speaker for companionship. Expectation for companionship. Expectation for companionship. Okay, so that's how the poem starts out, expectation for companionship. But then what happens is the speaker's let down. The speaker's let down. All right. Then what happens is the speaker, because he has this kind of really kind of disappointing experience, he thought that he had this connection with this guy and the guy just took off. Then the speaker goes from this kind of personal experience to this all-encompassing sweeping statement. Okay. So there's this personal experience, and from that personal experience, there's this kind of sweeping statement about all human connection. Sweeping statement about all human connections. And of course, his sweeping statement is, well, all of us are just ultimately all alone. We're all just alone. All of us are alone. Okay? Now, let me give you an example of that so it makes more sense to you. So let's say there's a person who's meets this girl and he's crazy in love with her and it seems like everything's great, and then out of nowhere the girl dumps the guy, okay? The girl dumps you. Okay? You're dumped. All right? So then, from that personal experience of being dumped, the guy says to himself, yeah, none of those women can be trusted. They're all the same. They're just, they can't be trusted. None of them. No girl can be trusted. No girl can be trusted. See, that's what happens. When we have these bad personal experiences, then we like make these big all-encompassing kind of statements about all of life. See? We do it all the time. There's a kind of like personal experience of being dumped, and then you go leap to the next thing. Well, none of these girls can be trusted. They're all worthless. You know, you can't give your heart to these girls because they're all like that. See? So that's what Frost does in the poem. He has this experience of expectation for friendship, and then it doesn't happen. And he goes, "Oh, we're all alone." Okay. So he's going he's going to like deeper and further into like the kind of despair, right? So then in the poem that now he even goes further into this darkness. Okay, number 3, when he introduces the butterfly. So the butterfly represents like a even deeper kind of movement into how the world can't be trusted. See, it's deeper, further. Now, what happens with the butterfly is it's not like, well, just one girl dumps you, like it's just one bad experience. But in the butterfly's world, the whole world is destroyed. See, like the butterfly comes back to where he gets his nourishment and his rest and his everything good, all the flowers. It's like the butterfly's world, and the world is destroyed. The whole world is worthless. See, the world is destroyed. The everything's bad. Everything is bad. Okay? That's the progression. See how it's getting worse and worse? Okay, so this kind of conclusion that the whole world is just kind of like this horrible place that can't be trusted, that experience is also very real for the human beings, and it primarily happens because of the reality of death. The reality of death is this thing that makes it so we can come to a conclusion that the world is, not a happy place. So, to give you an example, many years ago, there was a Loyola family that was going down to the beach one summer day, beautiful day, and at a traffic light, this truck plowed into this family, and they ended up like the husband and the son ended up dying, the boy that went to Loyola. And so the mother, she was hurt very badly, but she survived and ultimately got better. But you can imagine what the conclusion the mother would come to. You're just like at a traffic light, going down to the beach for this wonderful vacation, and the next thing you know, your whole family is destroyed. So this is what the butterfly is symbolizing. See, that the world itself, the world at its core, is something that cannot be trusted. Just as this woman that lost her family, the butterfly loses its world because everything's been cut down and destroyed. So this is where Frost is at now in the poem. Okay, it's there's like, meaning is the world is ultimately meaningless. Okay, the world is meaningless. Now, let me just mention this to you. When Frost first got married, as a young man, the first son that he had with his wife, Eleanor, was a little boy named Elliot. Okay. And Elliot was a very precocious and kind of like wonderful little kid, And when Elliot was 4 years old and they were living on a farm together, Elliot got cholera. It's a bacterial disease of the small intestine, and Elliot just died. And it just devastated Frost and his wife. So this is what we're talking about here. See? Death. The random nature of death. The random nature of death. What does the random nature of death do? It creates this sense that the world is basically meaningless at its core, right? So that's the example I gave here of Elliot, the son Elliot, 4 years old, died of cholera. Okay, so at this point, we go to the next lines after this, when he says this. And then he flew as far as I could see, and then on tremulous wing came back to me. Okay, so as we said before, in this experience of the absurd means the world as meaningless. In this experience of the absurd, the butterfly just takes off. He gives up, There is no meaning. He gives up, And then he flew as far as I could see. He gives up. I'm out of here, okay? It's like I said before, it's like the guy who the girlfriend dumps him and then he just stays intoxicated for 6 months, right? He's given up. It's not worth it. It's like, some of the students at Loyola, they won't even take an effort to listen to these discussions because they just giving up on well, I'm not going to do it. I don't care. There's that's it. I'm done. I'm not going to do this virtual learning stuff. That's a kind of giving up, right? Okay. But then what happens is, as we said in the poem, the butterfly comes back. Okay. And then he flew as far as I could see, and then on tremulous wing came back to me. All right. So he comes back. So, of course, what Frost is advocating is that, look, man, you got to come back. You can't just give up. You can't just throw in the towel. Got to give a second look to this stuff. Second look. Excuse me. Can't just live in despair. You got to try. You got to try to give it a second look. Okay, so what we want to say now is that what Frost seems to be getting at here is this flying, the butterfly flies off and then comes back, that I think he's trying to come to this distinction between a world of escape and a world of turmoil. Okay, so he's making this distinction. He's making a distinction between the world of escape, all right, and the world of turmoil. Okay. Now, escape, of course, is when we're in the middle of crisis or experiencing crisis and we just give up. The guy just stays intoxicated, or the guy that just his wife leaves him and he just goes to work all the time and he's just he's avoiding it. See, he's escaping. So escape is a kind of form of avoidance. Form of avoidance. But see, turmoil is different. Turmoil is where the person doesn't fly away into a world of escape, but he kind of lets himself live in the middle of this chaos. He stays there. I stay in the middle of the chaos. Now you might say to yourself, well, why would someone do that? Why would you stay in the middle of the chaos? Well, obviously, if you're willing to do that, that willingness is like shows some hope, right? That there might be an answer. If you're staying in the middle of the chaos and you're not escaping, avoiding, then you're saying that, well, there may be an answer. So not escaping and letting yourself kind of stay in that turmoil, what we're saying is that very act of doing that is an act of hope. There's hope there. And we know that this is what is happening in the poem because the butterfly comes back. So he's not totally escaping, see? He comes back. Butterfly comes back. So he's in, he's willing to be in this turmoil. Okay, so ultimately what this willingness to be in the turmoil involves, when everything's said and done, is this willingness to question the crisis. I'm willing to try to take a second look. So what's happening here in the world of turmoil is there's a willingness to question. There's a willingness to question what's going on. I'm not just escaping, all right? I'm not just giving up and escaping. I'm willing to think about this. So the turmoil is this world where, the person, wants to find meaning. Wants to find meaning. Wants to find meaning. That's what's going on in the world of being willing to enter the turmoil. So turmoil involves a willingness for the person to kind of enter into the middle of the crisis. Okay? Turmoil. Enter into the middle of the crisis. Not to run away completely. All right? Not to run away. Okay, I'm going to end it there, and we'll go to our next discussion tomorrow, the next time we meet. Take care, you guys. Thanks for listening. Thank you.